Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nordic Championship here at the DreamHack Monster Energy Studios. My name is Jake Kitbrain Matthews, and I'm joined by Dan Orks Harrison. This time, I'm not a voice in the wind. I'm not a ghost. I'm here in the flesh.
Yeah, got here eventually. Well, actually, it was Excandal's interim week, so...
Yeah, that was my week off, that was.
And still showed your face.
Genuinely thought the same thing was going to happen. We're having another storm at the moment. I think it is actually affecting some parts of Sweden, not up here in Stockholm. It's nice and
hopefully not
nice and calm here. Hopefully our players are going to be unimpeded, as we did have coincidence having to play off his mobile. He wasn't playing Wild Rift. He was playing tethered from his mobile.
Yeah, he was using his 4G, which he was playing Yorick, so I don't think it made much of a difference.
It's him versus the towers, so
essentially, yeah.
Yeah. It was a pretty rocky ride up here, but I'm here. I'm knackered.
We had an eventful week altogether. I mean, Nordic going 0-2. Obviously, they were the big preseason favourites, and they did not manage to perform at all. We saw Hillerod finally get a point on the board, which was a big one for them. We don't actually have any teams still at 1 point, 0 points now. Sorry,
that's good.
Because Orlando also managed to pick up a win with Face Hurt subbing in as their mid laner.
Yeah, and
then we saw Singularity continue their dominating streak. Still undefeated 4-0. Yeah,
looking very, very strong. Well, let's have a little look at the, not schedule, the other one.
Standings.
Standings, thank you very much. In first place, we have Team Singularity, 4-0, undefeated. We'll see if anyone can take them down today. Vipers are 3-1, hot on their heels. Then we've got a big old tires, Dusty, Hybrid, and Bifrost, all 2-2. Lando and Hillerod and Nordic all on 1-3 as well. So there's still a lot to kind of work out here before we start to get some more serious placement on where these teams are settling, because that kind of, it's almost the middle and the bottom. Well, it is the middle and the bottom is not decided at all. It's really, really up in the air at the moment.
Yeah, and the power of the alphabet helps us put Nordic in last place. So going from the preseason favorites to 8th, pretty big contrast, but it's still early. We've had 2 weeks, not too many games been played so far.
Yep.
Week 4 will be the halfway point. So for now, there's still an opportunity very much to climb back to playoffs, but it starts to get to the point where the gaps can open up. So there's a 3-point separation between Singularity and Nordic as an example. If they have another 0-2 week for Nordic, another 2-0 for Singularity, that gap becomes a little bit tricky to sort of catch up on. But for now, definitely opportunity for every team to sort of change their fortune and keep working towards things, especially as we are now on patch 10.3, which had quite a few significant changes come through. So definitely change the pace of the game to a degree.
Yeah, man, Senna dead. Let's have a little look at today's games to see who will be playing versus who. Be opening the day with Dusty versus Vipers. Then our second game will be Hillerod versus Nordic. Bifrost taking on Team Singularity as our third game of the day. We're rounding out our day with Hybrid versus Orlando.
Yeah, so a lot of interesting matchups here. I think Vipers against Dusty. Vipers ahead in the standings, but Dusty very close to having a really dominating streak. It's just those last moments that are unable to close out the game. I think both of their losses were their games to lose, and unfortunately they did lose them. So I feel like coming in this matchup, it definitely should be a tight one. And if Dusty win out, they will match Vipers' score in second place. So definitely a good position to put themselves in.
So while we're talking about this game, we need to talk about the fact that there is a patch change. We will see some priorities shift. What are we expecting now that we're on 10.3?
So we've had nerfs to basically all of the major AD carry staples. Aphelios weren't that big. It essentially just limited the range on his Calibrum when you're using its proc. So he's overall unchanged. Senna got hit really hard. The soul generation is just vastly down, and since that's a massive part of her power budget, she really is struggling in the AD carry role. And even with slight buffs to the support role, she's not really being played there in competitive either. And Misfortune just nerfs the attack speed. Still strong, just scales a little bit worse because it's attack speed growth. The big one is that Ezreal, there's a new lethal tempo build which is being run, and he got buffs to his mana growth and attack speed growth, both very important for him. And then Yuumi as well. Yuumi was buffed massively, and I think her in tandem with Ezreal is a meta-defining lane, because I think now that both of them are in a strong position, you playing them together is really difficult to deal with. You saw a little bit of it in the LEC, where just the ability from Ezreal to keep the Yuumi safe and then just fire down constant poke is extremely effective. We've had quite a few nerfs and buffs across the board. Some of our staple meta picks like Akali has been nerfed heavily in a lot of areas. So won't see nearly as much of her Definitely not the 100% sort of ban rate we were seeing typically.
I mean, she was banned all last week and all first week as well.
She was picked once.
Oh, no, sorry. Yeah, I was thinking of week 1. Week 1, she was banned all week.
But so I likely to see her less so. But we still have things like Soraka is looking strong. Sona got a slight nerf to her self-movement speed, but still strong, still powerful. Set nerfs. There's a bit more Sejuani, slight buffs, so may see her show her face again. I think just across the board, there's a lot of minor tweaks that may have a big effect, and it's looking to see how this plays out as the patch goes along. I think having seen the LEC already play, there'll be a lot of sort of reads from how they've performed and what they've put priority on. And obviously scrims have been going on 10.3 for a while, so it'll be just interesting to see how the priorities shift. I think the biggest change was towards the AD carries. The fact that Senna is just gone, because you saw a lot of teams willing to trade Aphelios and Senna. And then with Misfortune nerfed as well, just shake things up a little bit.
Alrighty, well, we're in to picks and bans for our first game of the day. Vipers on the blue side, Dusty on the red. Let's see what is going to be taken away here, because normally we've been seeing red side Akali bans every time. I'm curious to see whether or not the teams prioritize that still, or if they just think it's not worth it anymore.
No, I don't think so. I think if we see an Akali, it's going to be a fringe pick. I think it's going to be picked up maybe as a counter. Yeah, because you have a lot less safety on that champion. It's still obviously got the execution potential, but the big power of Akali was that you were almost untouchable from ganks in the laning phase. And Gragas coming out as an early ban.
Followed up by the Ornn as well. We have been seeing the Ornn still get a fair amount of play here. It's good flex pick. You can run it mid as a tank. You can run it top as a tank. You can run it most places.
I think as well with things like Akali, Set, and Senna all getting nerfs, I think the priority of things like Ornn, which have managed to withstand patch 10.3, do rise in priority, because there's a lot of sort of discussion, what will be that first pick over for Vipers? And Vipers so far banning away a lot of junglers from Joachim on Dusty with that Gragas and that Jarvan. That suggests maybe they're going to prioritize a jungler early in the rotation. Or I think the big thing with Hidden is he's one of the junglers who doesn't share a champion pool as closely to the other. We've seen a ton of Lee Sin, a ton of Jarvan across this tournament. But Hidden hasn't really leaned towards that. He's been playing more Skarner. I believe 2 of their games on the Skarner pick so far. So maybe this is showing a sort of flexibility in that regard, although his Elise has been highly prioritized.
The Nunu is open, though. I know it's a pocket pick for him. It's something they could always fall back onto.
Potentially. I think Nunu or Skarner could come up late in the rotation. Yeah. I think if he's going to first pick a jungler here, it's going to be the Elise. And then it's likely we'd see Dusty trade out with the Lee Sin, and then we'd see the draft develop from there. But the Sejuani has been buffed in some ways, nerfed in some other ways with regards to her passive and how the monsters proc it. But a better clear, really. And also the jungle XP has changed. That's something I didn't brush on before. But essentially the big monsters in the jungle give a bit more XP. From levels 4 to 6, the whole jungle gives more. And Krogs are more valuable overall. But they've split it up more, so the big Krog is worth less and the little ones are worth more. So overall, it's more. But you saw a lot of junglers invade and just take the big Krog. That'll be less common. It's now a more valuable camp. If you invade it, you want to take the whole thing. And if you clear it yourself, obviously, you take the whole thing. I actually seen the Graves come out from Dusty.
Ooh, that's pretty interesting stuff there. That's someone who's, like you said, we were just talking about invading. Graves is pretty bloody good at invading.
I think it also plays into the sort of farming discussion with regards to champions who benefit from the increased XP and gold in the jungle potentially available. I think he would benefit from that, from going for a healthier clear and scaling up. So they're locking that Graves, and then the Misfortune as well. So compared to the likes of Senna, she didn't get touched nearly as much. And with the Aphelios banned, pretty higher up in the tiering with regards to champions as far as they go. The question is, what will Vipers go? Typical for Dem Voxnay is the likes of things like the Varus, but it could go in a different direction if you wanted to pick up the Ezreal, which is the new trend.
We'll have to see what he wants to go towards. He's prioritized that Varus quite a lot. He's going to lock it in, like you just said. And what are Vipers going to round this out with? Are they going to get themselves support? Make sure Dem Voxnay stays nice and safe in that bot lane on the Varus. One of the weaknesses Varus has is he's low mobility. Yep. He does offer a little bit of CC with a slow and also his snare from his ultimate, but you lock in that Braum, you've now given him a little bit more safety, especially if stuff starts getting layered on top of him, you can block up most of that Misfortune ult, but that's the Zillion there for only 35, and that's kind of a bit of an older counter for the Braum, because you can easily stack the bombs on top of him.
Yeah, if he puts his Unbreakable up and you throw the double bombs in the general vicinity, they will auto-lock onto the Braum, and the stun can end up hitting both of them. Also, just the fact that you can slow him down means you can actually chase Braum down for quite a while. But overall, Braum Varus very standard, but one of the limitations is that up against mages or enchanters, you can have a difficult laning phase. And so Dusty, they've gone into a position here, and they did this last week as well, where they pick the MF up, a strong laner, the enemy team counteract, and then they pick a mage, and that just means that Vipers are going to really struggle in the bot lane in terms of pressure.
Well, that's going to be the Kiana band away, followed up by a Yorick. We saw Coincidence. Even though they didn't win, both the times we've seen him lock in this Yorick, it has been really, really horrible to deal with. And he's been a hair's breadth away from winning both of those games. So don't want anything to do with it. Just ban it away. Makes sense here if you're the side of Vipers. And now Dusty going to make their final ban. It is the Renekton. You've hit on quite a few times about how Renekton Elise is one of the strongest tower diving combos for early game there is in League of Legends. That's not going to be available to Vipers now.
Yeah, I feel like sort of the only other ones that rival it are the likes of Kled Elise, but so good for tower diving, and with that off the cards, does mean that Quinston's maybe a bit safer to pick something blind here, or potentially even go for the counter pick later on and not be threatened by that potential. But we'd see the LeBlanc come out. That leaves the Zoe up as probably the big blind mid laner off this patch. It's kind of grown up in Resurgence despite no actual changes individually to the Zoe. So could end up seeing that come out as a blind for Legions, although Legions has shown that he will sort of blind a variety of champions. We saw him take the Victor before, even though it was potentially in a rough lane matchup up against Nordic, and he managed to hold out all right.
Alrighty, well, as the timer is ticking down, we do see Legions get his hands onto the Rise there for the mid lane. Technically a flex. We most likely will expect to see it in the mid lane, though, as is where it's been getting played most recently here. And now it's looking like Vipers, it's onto them to round out their comp. They're looking for a top laner. They're looking for a mid laner here. What do they want to take?
I think you want some decent engage potential to round out your composition. If you're looking to team fight, potentially have some avenue to pursue that, because right now I'm scared of Dusty going towards a sort of 1-3-1 potential. We've seen how good Quinstons can be in the side lane. With Legions also on something that can go in the side lane, it's going to make things extremely difficult, especially when right now Vipers don't have a ton of engage altogether between their champions. I mean, Varus can be pretty solid, but he is short-ranged, and that is one of the limitations. It's pretty easy just to clear out waves if you have the likes of the Misfortune, the Zillion, and even if you're pressured, have the Graves lean in. But they're actually going to go for the Gangplank here. So offering that ult, which can obviously help if there is side lane pressure, and GP happy to hold lanes by himself, and also a big element of scaling towards the side of Vipers Inc. Now the question is, what are Dusty going to do to sort of round out their composition? I think 1-3-1's a definite threat. I think they have laning prowess in the bot lane to play through in the early stages. They're just going to go for the Orianna. That does put Rise in the top lane, which I think this works out better for Dusty in terms of matchups, because Cassiopeia is the standard sort of counter towards Rise, because obviously he needs to sort of he needs to cast his spells, and it's an easy opportunity for Cassiopeia to cast her ult, her Petrifying Gaze, because when you cast your W, you're locked into that animation. And then on top of that, into the Gangplank, Rise is a good matchup, and Orianna, so you can just hold up fine mid. So I think Dusty have come out of this pretty well in terms of where each champion is going. In the later stages of the game, they have a lot of AoE damage split between themselves. But my big concern is for Vipers, well, for Dusty facing into Vipers, if they can't get on top of this Cassiopeia and this Varus, they may struggle a little bit, but I think the lack of frontline means it's not like Cassiopeia and Varus will just be able to burn through someone.
Yeah.
As long as Dusty don't overcommit too heavily and get locked down in the CC, they should be okay.
And if Dusty can win this game, they will tie with Vipers in the standings, and then depending on what happens tomorrow, they could either pull ahead or remain in spot with them. So it's really on them to get this win here. Dusty, they want to get it so they stay relevant here in the Nordic Championship. I know we're only just starting out week 3, so there's still a lot more action to go, but if you can keep yourself high now, it means you have a little bit more wiggle room later on in the season. And it's really going to be on them to try and take this win here, as Dusty, they've had a few games where it just looks like they should have won it, and they haven't been able to get those wins. So hopefully for them, that's not one of these cases. But if you are a Vipers fan, they've locked in a Viper on their team. They've got that Cassiopeia. We'll have to see how Paulson can handle Legions here.
Yeah, I think for me, this is going to be very much about hidden, because the mid and top lane with the Cassiopeia and the Gangplank very much just looking to scale, especially Gangplank into a ranged matchup. You are just wanting to farm up in that regard. And then I think on the bot side of the map, that's my biggest concern for Vipers, is the matchup of Varus Braum into the MF Zillion. If this is an isolated 2v2, then Dusty should absolutely crush this matchup. So I think I need to see Hidden making his presence known on the bot side, but it can go disastrously wrong if a counter gank comes in from Joachim. If the Graves turns up and Elise has already used a Repel, used a Cocoon, it could just mean the end of the game for the side of Dusty. So I think bot lane will be the big catalyst if Hidden can deny that pressure. And then they have scaling elements in their comp that can sort of favor them later on.
I just want to have a little talk about the keystones that are coming through. For the most part, everything is pretty standard. We have seen a lot of Cassiopeias opt into the Conqueror, but Poulsen going for the Phase Rush wants that extra mobility to kind of dodge away from the Graves skill shots and stuff like that.
I think as well, when you're up against a team like this, there isn't too many targets to just consistently stack that Conqueror on. I mean, there is no frontliner tank on the side of Dusty who you can just DPS freely. And I think that's why this works pretty well into what Vipers are trying to do, is traditionally they like to kite back in situations and have Denvoxne and Poulsen a lot of space so they can just fire away whatever's in front of them if they are playing Poulsen on a mage. And in this situation, they won't really have the freedom to do so.
Well, we've taken to the Rift for week number 3 of the Nordic Championship. Starting out with Dusty taking on Vipers. A win here for Dusty would tie them in the standings. That'd be a splendid start. Have to see if they can do it.
And the big thing for Dusty has been them finding their footing and then ending the game. We've seen them manage to go into favorable positions. We've seen them so close to finishing. But in their 4 games, 2 of them, they really managed to sort of fall over at the finish line. So it's an opportunity for them to take out a team higher than them in the standings and also sort of prove that they can close out games.
Yeah, it really has been their problem. The closing out of games. And I feel like the 2 losses they've got were both games where Coincidence was on that Yorick. He was split pushing like a god, and the rest of the team just weren't entirely playing the rest of the map right. And it just bled out a little bit too much, but he couldn't stem that bleeding. Since then, we'll have to see if there's been any growth, any capability of being able to handle these situations.
Well, it comes down to cover the invade there. So obviously being a jungler with a dash, Joachim can very easily path into the enemy jungle, sorry. And now that the Dragon Pit is warded, he won't be able to do that. And actually, Lundolf getting a massive trade-off against Coincidence. That shouldn't be happening this early in the game. And Lundolf actually went barrel. So I think he had kegs set up in the brushes and caught Coincidence off guard. You do not expect a Gangplank to not run the parlay level 1, especially into a ranged matchup. So going for a little bit of cheese there, and it paid off because he chunked Coincidence out.
I mean, we know Gangplank does have a decent level 1 when you got that parlay, and obviously the barrels reset the parlay as well, so probably what was helping him along with that grass for that level 1 trade, but now level 2's hit, you think Coincidence should be okay in this level.
Parlay's the Q. I think you mean the Trial by Fire.
Trial by Fire, yeah. I know Gangplank's my 2nd most played champion. I should know this ability names.
Oriana's pretty up there as well, isn't she? So you'll know stuff about that. We do see both junglers sticking on their own side. So Hidden is actually on a ward here right now on his Raptors. So Dusty have full information. They want to commit to anything they are in a position to. If Joachim wants to go top, but for now, he's happy just clearing through the jungle. Poulsen actually able to gain priority here in this matchup in the early levels. And that means he's able to get off a cheetah recall. So what a cheetah recall is, it's where you're able to shove the wave in, go to base, pick up an item to have an advantage, and then get back to lane before the wave hits your tower. So you can see Poulsen's recalled. He now not only has the Doran's Ring, but he has the Crafting Potion as well. And he's heading back to lane. And he'll be there before the wave even hits the tower. So he won't really miss anything. But in response, Legions is actually looking to freeze the wave here. So it didn't quite hit the tower. And I think that's the problem. But because there's so many casters built up for Legions, he's not going to be able to hold this one. It will push back into Poulsen. So Poulsen coming out pretty favorably in this scenario in the early levels.
That's a fantastic start for him. Legion's just trying to hard shove this wave in and see if he can die Poulsen anything. But with the Twin Fangs, it's so hard not to get the farm as Cassiopeia underneath tower. So Poulsen is going to be able to pull ahead in CS once he catches up on most of this wave. I'm going to see bases here in the top side. Coincidence is going to burn his teleport, but comes back with his Tear of the Goddess. So he can start stacking that up ASAP as Joachim actually goes in for a cheeky invade on to the Krugs now. This is what you're saying. Is he going to clear out all of them? Because remember, that experience, that gold is now spread out further across all of the different monsters within this camp.
Yeah, so he wants to stay, wants to get as much as possible because it is worth more gold too. But this is actually less punishing than it would be before the patch because Hidden got there and he's able to clear out the smaller ones. So overall, the camp is worth more. But if this had been on 10.2, Joachim wouldn't have denied as much away from the Elise here. Right now, Paulson actually managed to get back to lane and freeze the wave in front of his tower. So a little bit of a tricky position for Paulson, for Legion, sorry. But he knows where Elise is. He knows there's no threat. So he's not really in any danger and he can just shove it in.
Alrighty, well, 5 minutes on the clock is approaching here. We're dead even. Do you see that Legion's been a base, got himself the double Dorans, so he's trying to kind of match the items that Paulson's got. He's obviously got his cookies as well, so he's got actually more charges of healing available to him.
So that was actually, I mean, this was a little bit of a misplay because Hidden, he used his sweeper in the bot lane. He's using the Voxnay go pretty aggressive here.
Ooh, Bebop actually jumps forward, misses out on the Winter's Bite though. Does mean that Hoyes and Only are going to be able to walk away from that.
See, Joachim's actually looking for Hidden here. Hidden's on vision. If he finds the jump on him, he could take him out. But there's two members there. You got to be careful.
He's got to be very, very careful. Throws out the blinding there for the moment. Pulsar looks to come forward. Tries to throw the poison down. Hidden still has that flash. Joachim is going to be sped up, and a Cocoon will disengage here, as Vipers will not be losing their spider today.
But the critical thing is Dusty have complete control over this bot side of the river, and it's expected because we talked about this bot lane for Dusty. They will have priority in the lane. They will be able to dictate where it is and shove it in. And unfortunately, there hasn't been any ganking pressure from Hidden yet. So there's been no response, nothing to deny the misfortune and the Zillion from just pushing as they please. And as a result, Joachim can go for this dragon in this situation. There's no real threat, and Hidden is path towards the top side. So far, pretty slow early game, which definitely favors Dusty.
You have to say, though, Denvoxy's done a good job to keep himself actually equal, if not ahead, actually, in CS at this point versus Hoyes. But the problem is the map pressure. What is it actually costing the rest of the Vipers? Because he's only up a few CS. It's not a significant amount at the moment, but hopefully for him, he can build it up a little bit more. Winston and Lundorf actually going in there. That's just going to be a quick disengage. Hidden has to find this Cocoon, but they're using the ulti to get out. He's managed to get that. That's going to be easy. First blood to Lundorf.
Bit of a misplay there from Quinston. You have to flash the Cocoon in that situation if you're going to survive, but it ends up Hidden. He ends up not expecting Hidden to find it, and he goes down as a result. Still does have his flash for any future ganks, but a good start from Vipers. It's a little bit late at level 5 for at least only to be getting on the scoreboard now, but it's something. And I think Vipers will take that. Bebop probably does spot out Joachim here.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to want to 1v1 that, Bebop.
The control ward is a sacrifice. For applying so much pressure topside, Hidden does lose out on the other side of the map. He's going to lose his Raptors for this as well. But you definitely take that for the kill you were able to get. But now...
Ooh, good shockwave here. Paulson has flash, has that Petrifying Gaze Legions. Still got some mana to work with, and Hidden is just going to send him packing. Looks like Paulson should be able to catch most of this wave and not really feel too much pressure from that.
When you dematerialize, that actually used by Bebop Bully just to get that cannon out of the way quickly, and it means Paulson should be able to reset pretty fast. The wave isn't really affected, and he'll be back in lane a little bit later than Legions, but overall, despite the aggression coming out from Dusty's mid laner, not going to amount to much. And so far, early game being pretty slow. You can see 1,000 gold lead in the favor of Vipers, mostly due to that first kill. And remember, Gangplank does get extra gold thanks to his parlay passive. But overall, things pretty close so far. Do you see a swap coming in from Dusty? This is the sort of thing you look to be doing when you're playing around those neutral objectives. You've taken the dragon, so Herald is next on the mark, and the question is, will Lundorf overstep, or is he going to respect this one? In return, Devoxney is just pressuring the tower on the other side of the map, and you can see one plate already been taken. So this is a trade-off. Is the Herald going to match Vipers being bot lane first? It all depends on how much they can get here, because they're denying Quinston's away from all this farm.
Yeah.
And you can see top lane and in the 80 carries, Devoxney is now 10 up, Lundor's 10 up, and this is due to the denial that's come out. So yes, they get the Herald, which makes the push faster. The question is, will they get first tower quicker in this situation?
Lundorf actually does not have his cannon barrage available to him, so you won't be able to offer anything to deal with this. And actually looks like Joachim's just going to look to slap this down in the mid lane here. Going to get the blind down as Miasma's going to get used, but this is going to be a lot of plating here in the mid lane, and Legions and Joykin going to pick this up. Paulson not going to lose out on his tower here. You wouldn't think anyway. But he is going to lose a lot of plates. I don't think he's going to lose that last one, though.
No, keeps it alive. So this loses the first tower race for Dusty. But the advantage they get, they funnel a lot of gold on the Legions. And also on top of that, that mid tower is now precariously low. We've talked before about how important the mid lane tower is for ensuring you have control of the map. Once that's down, it allows a deeper shove in mid. Because that is the pivotal point of the map where you can rotate anywhere, it's pretty important. But the cost is you don't have that Herald top lane. The Cannon Barrage can clear out the rest of the wave. And Poise doesn't get very much in this situation. First tower is actually close to going down for Vipers. I don't believe they get this on this wave, but they get it on the next one. This has been a massive advantage for Vipers. But you got to ask, what did Dusty get in return? Because they get that mid tower low. If they can capitalize on that later, this may be worth it. But overall, Viper's going to take the gold lead for now.
Minion Dematerializer was used by Bebop, and actually they're funneling all the gold on to just Demvoxney. Bebop stood far enough out of range that he wasn't going to get that gold. Now then, actually looks to push up one more wave here, just to make sure that they do get a nice kind of harder reset here.
And so Dusty don't even trade the turrets on the top side. So the end result is a big gold lead for Vipers, and that is all going to be on Demvoxney. So he's going to be super strong coming into this mid game. Those 1-2 item spikes for Varus are huge. And so that's the point where Vipers can really start to put the pace on the game. And they often do like to play around Demvoxney. He's a pivotal part of their team. He's now got that Blade of the Ruined King in his pocket. Dragon is spawning in a minute. I think Vipers can come in here and try and contest this one. The only disadvantage is Dusty reset first. They're going to be on the map sooner, and they have the vision control of the Dragon area. So there's pros and cons to this sort of situation. There's also no Cannon Barrage available for Lundorf, which is a big tool if you want to make plays across the map from him.
You can see Coincidence now moving up to that top side. He still has that teleport available to him, but he has been getting pretty hard denied here. And it's a champion who needs to get these kind of high-cost items finished up, especially things like the rower, as quick as possible to start that stacking. He's actually getting pretty hard denied, but doesn't really matter too much here to Dusty, as they are going to look to get themselves this Infernal Drake. There's not going to be any contest coming out as Bebop wants to try and zone Joykim away, but Joykim just able to use his E over the wall to get away. But now he's being hunted down by a few members from Vipers.
They can't chase too hard. That mid tower is so low. If you give Dusty space by chasing this kill, you will lose that mid lane tower.
Ulti comes out by Den. He looks for the piercing arrow, does find it. That's going to be a kill for him, but only going to give up maybe one plate here. But no one's going to be close enough to pick the gold up, so that's actually not really the end of the world there for Vipers. The person who's getting all the gold here for them, Demvoxney, now just got himself a kill. He's got that Blade of the Ruined King finished up. Our observer pointing out there that there is 1,006 health left on that turret.
So just above the plate threshold. It didn't actually go down in the end. So it's still available for Dusty if they want to push it down. The gold wasn't denied from themselves in that situation, but it's going to be tricky now with Demvoxney and Bebop Bully set up in the mid lane. And as much as that tower may have been low HP from that Herald play, until it drops, it's still offering that pressure. 1,000 HP, a little bit precarious, but for now it is fine. So the goal lead 3,000 in favor of the Vipers now. So in a really comfortable spot in this early game. And I feel like a lot of these decisions coming out from Dusty have allowed them to sort of play to a later game win condition. They've stacked up 2 dragons. They've put more pressure on taking down the enemy's mid lane tower. They haven't contested things like their bot lane tower. They gave up. They gave up the first tower blood. They weren't in a position to contest that, but now they're going aggressive here.
Joykim's looking for something onto Hidden. Hidden flashes over that wall. There's a kill in the mid lane. Ulti used by both Legions and Hoys. And this could just result in the tower going down here. Bebop going to try and put that Unbreakable up to make sure this tower doesn't take too much damage, but he gets chunked out in return.
That's down on the next wave. There's no way to defend that unless Pulse and TP's in.
There's a Cannon Barrage, but I think it's just not going to do enough.
Nah, absolutely not. Goes down on the next wave. So this is the payoff. We saw Vipers get the big gold lead coming out from the first tower. And we saw Dusty not prioritize contesting that first tower blood. Instead, they put the effort on taking down that mid lane tower. They have done so. As a result, it was low enough. And that's going to give them greater control of the mid lane area. The ability to push those waves in deeper, rotate out, and get vision. And it means that Viper's in a little bit of a precarious position here. Definitely on the back foot when it comes to how much control they can even Pulse, and he's overstayed.
Yeah, he's getting run down here. Poulsen looking to try and make some kind of a grand escape, throws out the ultimate, and he is looking to speed away with that phase rush. Coincidence also procs his own phase rush and looks to run out, but Poulsen, with the poison ticking, with the movement speed available to the slippery snake, is going to be able to get away.
Hard one to take out, but you do get the flash away from the Cassiopeia. You're going to take some damage in the top lane tower, but with plates down, it's not really too impactful. Lundorf doing damage here until he actually gets the tower. And you can see that now Hoyes has moved up to defend this. Viper still 2,500 gold up. So definitely they still have that gold lead in their pocket. They're still pretty far ahead in that regard.
Oh, Hoyes actually could just run Lundorf down here. Pulse the Hex Drinker, flashes him forward. Hoyes makes it look simple.
And Lundorf just not respecting the damage potential from Hoyes. Also, the extra movement speed available from a passive, able to run the Gangplank down, and essentially giving a freebie kill over. And considering how far behind Hoyes was as a result of those plates, he's now in a pretty comfortable spot after picking up 2 kills, has his first Titan finish. Then Voxney looking to force them off because Vipers really want this Herald.
Yeah, they get the cleanse from Legions there. They get the Herald in return. Vipers pretty happy with that net gain, as now they're sending Poulsen up to the top lane to try and deal with this tower. Petrifying Gaze still on cooldown for him for a little bit longer though. So he needs to be a little bit careful as Legions, sorry, Hoyes also up there in that top side, and he has that bullet time available.
Question's going to be, where will Vipers throw down that Herald? I think mid lane is the obvious one to me to look for. And right now they're looking for Dust, for Legion, sorry. No cleanse or flash, but he manages to walk it out. Ult's going to come in to clear out that wave, but Lundorf knows he can't step up. He's seen Joachim on a ward, and it has to respect the pressure, but Dusty putting so many members bot means it frees Vipers up to contest this mid lane tower, and this is just going to go down with no plates. No real way you can contest this one, unless Legions gets a huge shockwave, but he's not even looking. And it's just a costly. Dusty up to go heavily for that bot lane tower. This is the power of the Gangplank with the Cannon Barrage thinning out the wave. They get mid tower. They're going to take top tower as well on top of that. And I sort of understood the decision coming out from Dusty to look for that mid lane tower, but they've conceded so much in the past couple of minutes. Vipers are 3,000 gold ahead. Now, the only thing going really in favor of Dusty is those dragons. They have 2 stacked up, and the third is spawning in just a few seconds. Vipers, Voxney is back on the map thanks to his TP. So you see he actually TP'd in to get mid priority. And the region is, that means Legions now has to catch this wave, and Vipers has control. So I was a little bit concerned they'd be late to the play, but a TP from Voxney stops that from happening, and now they have control of the dragon area. Dusty are down in gold, and they essentially have to face check. You can see Joachim feeling confident to move in, however. Lundorf needs to move up from the bot wave if he wants to assist his team to contest that, but you can see Poulsen moves over, shoves mid in, and the rest of Dusty has to back away. Someone needs to catch that wave. As a result, they have control.
One of the things you do notice when the Ocean Drake spawns, there are more bushes, so you have to invest a lot more into wards, a lot more gold gets burnt. Here's Poulsen, looks to get onto Coincidence here, sends him back in. A flash over the wall comes out by Joachim, followed up by a bullet time, but Poulsen able to get away. And it's just with the Ocean Drake picked up nice and simple here for the Vipers. So they disengage out.
It's really hard to walk in on Viper's composition. They have so many tools like the Chains of Corruption, the Petrifying Gaze, the Miasma, all the Braum, slows, and CC. It's very difficult to walk in on them. And you can see how Dusty wanted to have control, but it was actually the TP coming out from Voxney that set all of that up. By him initially taking mid priority, it forced Dusty away, and they had to respond. And also just the massive gold disadvantage as well. Viper's really in firm control of this game so far.
If we could toggle the gold, actually, that'd be lovely to see who is further ahead with who. You can see there is a 1,000 gold lead in the AD carries. Mid laners are pretty much tied. Junglers are pretty much tied. Top lane, a 1,200 gold lead. So gold currently sitting in 2 of the carries here for Vipers. 2 of the scaling champions as well.
This is a sacrifice that Dusty made, because they opted to go for the Herald, and then they put it mid, so they denied a lot of gold away from Hoyes, and at the same time, Vipers shut Quinstance out of multiple waves. So Dusty put themselves in this own situation, and it hasn't really worked out pretty successfully for them. Yes, they got the mid tower as a result of the Herald usage, but Vipers were easily able to trade that back and get 2 extra towers on top of that and a big gold lead. Now as well that they've managed to deny that 3rd dragon from Dusty, they're in a pretty comfortable position. And with regards to scaling, Vipers scale pretty well. I think in the later stages of the game, Dusty do edge it out. but it's still not going to be a closed and shut game when it comes to the late game.
And a lot was invested into the mid lane, but Paulson, he's fine now. He's got that rower working towards his Archangels. And Coincidence still not sitting on a rower. We're closing on that 20-minute gap here. And he might actually just opt into something a little bit different. Might go for the Abyssal Mask at this point, as it looks like he's trying to finish his Archangels.
I think just a Catalyst can be a pretty strong tool for the Ryze. Just get that extra HP and bulkiness behind you. Especially since he's spending a lot of time in the side lane against Lundorf. That HP doing a lot against that Trial by Fire true damage. And this is one of the things. If the game goes really late, then having more carries and Dusty, when you hit those 6 item points, you're going to come out ahead. But with the gold lead Vipers have, they shouldn't really let it get to that point. Right now, they're almost 4,000 gold up. There are no big objectives on the cards right now. With all the outer towers down, it's pretty difficult for Vipers to push further into the map of Dusty and start taking inner towers without the Baron buff. They have got good control over the Baron area, but it's very difficult to start that one up without a contest coming out from Dusty. And I think it's going to come down to a back and forth between these two teams, giving Dusty more time to sort of close out that gold lead. Next Dragon is likely going to be a point where Dusty can choose to contest if they want to try and get the third, but they don't need to. Ooh, a little bit danger here. Double bomb comes in.
Yeah, he does get stunned, also gets slowed up by the Hextech Hosepipe. Always looks to try and see if he can make something happen here. Get that double up off, and Lundorf just assassinates Coincidence.
Yeah,
in that side lane.
Normally Coincidence is the one doing well in the side lane, but he gets caught out by the Triforce Hex Drinker Gangplank. Really hard to deal with in the 1v1. Lundorf will get this tower, and he's in a position to back away. So Dusty given even less time. We talked about them just holding the waves, playing defensive. You don't need contest, but they lose that inner tower, and you have to start asking the question, is Coincidence able to hold this Gangplank, or was that just a misplay? Because if you can hold him and that was a misplay, that's fine. But if this becomes an insurmountable matchup, that's where things start getting difficult. And I think this really comes down to Coincidence, because I don't think Ryze, by standard, should just go down a Gangplank in that situation. The gold is definitely a factor, though. The fact that Coincidence hasn't been able to finish up his Archangels, stack it up to a Seraphs, and the fact that Lundorf got that extra gold income because he wasn't denied as much by the other team, he's now sitting on great 2 items to be going up in the side lane against Coincidence.
Yeah. And Coincidence now just finishing that rower, 7 minutes behind Paulson, who also has his Seraph stacking up. We're building towards the Archangels. He is very, very weak comparatively here to Paulson, who's on a similar item build. We'll have to see how this is going to bite Dusty, because Coincidence has been the man who's put a lot of these losing games on his back, and he's really not in the position to do so at the moment. Drake is spawning up. Vipers are heading over. They're clearing out this vision, getting some nice deep vision into the blue side as well of that jungle. For Dusty, they got teleport in the top lane, so Paulson feeling quite comfortable just to stand here and deal with this.
Yeah, you can see the response from Dusty is to shove at the mid lane wave and contest some of this Baron vision. So this is a smart move. They don't need to contest this Dragon. There's no obligation. They're actually going to start the Baron up in this situation. I think Vipers do have a read, and they're going to blue trinket. Joken's very low here, so got to be a bit careful.
Yeah, they're getting jumped onto. The flash comes forward, and Coincidence flashes away. Paulson needs to be a little careful here. He gets slowed down by the Make It Rain. Does have himself a Petrifying Gaze, and Joikim is taking some serious damage from the Cannon Barrage. Lundorf is just quite happy to push up and continue trying to take this tower here. He's got that Demolish to work with. He's going to do some serious damage with the Triforce as well. This might just be a bot lane turret.
Pretty close. It's so low. I think the minions won't take it out in the end, but it definitely puts that threat on the table. And Coincidence, he joined his team to try and make that Baron play a reality, and the cost was that tower gets chunked out. They don't even find the play. The Gangplank doing so much work with that Cannon Barrage to keep Paulson safe. And we talked a lot about Dusty and how sometimes it can feel like the game is theirs to lose. This is not one of those games. They are very much behind in the situation. Vipers are in control. Dusty are the ones looking for a comeback, which isn't something we've typically seen from them as a team. Usually they're the ones who come out ahead for the most part in the early mid game. Right now, though, they are looking towards those later stages. 2 items have been picked up for the Misfortune. It's a big spike, but then Voxnate also on a big spike in the Blade Rune King and the Runans. The Ceres has been completed for Paulson, so they're in a really strong spot. the good consolation is that 2 dragons are in Dusty's pocket.
Yeah.
So that soul is another just under 10 minutes away. And it means that there isn't as much burden to sort of contest those right now. You can't wait a little bit longer before you're forced into that one.
Although if they do end up losing that, the game does get delayed. Even with that scaling they have, they'll be going into quadruple Ocean. With the Ocean Soul healing as well, it's going to make life really, really hard. You stack that on top of a Cassiopeia, who already innately has healing baked into her to kit with the Twin Fangs, then Voxney as well.
I think one thing to say, though, is I feel like the Ocean, when there's no beefy front line on the other side, it's less difficult to deal with. An Ornn with 4 Oceans and Soul, or something like an Olaf, feels impossible to kill. But I feel like if you catch the Voxney into a Shockwave bullet time, he dies regardless of how many Ocean Drakes he has. So the compositions mean that Ocean Soul isn't going to be the biggest issue, but it still does provide a lot of sustain. If Vipers want to start at the Baron and then back away, they're not going to be very concerned about it because they won't be chunked out. Only concern is being engaged while you're still on the Baron by, say, an over-the-wall bullet time and Shockwave. But for the most part, Dusty, there's not too much right now they need to hard contest. It's just making sure your side lane up against Lundorf stays alive and making sure Vipers don't take the Baron. It is very fast with the Cassiopeia. She burns through it extremely quickly, so you have to be concerned about that one. Varus as well has a lot of single target damage with the Blade of the Rune King and the attack speed available. You have to be a little bit cautious. But for now, I think it's pretty easy to face check. They have a jungler with the dash. They have Zilean who has an ult in case he does go down. And the engage from Vipers is a little bit weak. They're really relying on Voxney with his Chains of Corruption, and you've seen he's tried to flash and make use of it. But as long as the person he's going for has a flash available, it's pretty low risk, especially as Legions and Hoys both have Cleanse.
26 minutes on the clock here. We are 6k up for Vipers. See Lundorf still sitting in this side lane, holding that teleport. The Cannon Barrage is back available to him. Got the BF sword, so it looks like building towards that Essence Reaver or Infinity Edge is his next item. Not going into the tank plank, wants to go into the spank plank.
I think going bulky isn't really going to help in these team fights. You want to be able to blow people up with your barrels and your parlay. And also, a big thing is you can't just play to win the side lane. Right now, he is ahead of the Rise. He is in a pretty comfortable position. And Quinston's is going to catch up anytime soon when there's...
Look at that gold lead.
3,000 gold lead between the top laners. You can see that Hoys has managed to keep the gold lead pretty small. It's only about 1,200 at this point, which is a major. And he's even in levels, so Hoys is pretty fine on this misfortune. Mid lane is in favor of Paulson thanks to his massive farm lead. But for the most part, the majority of that gold lead is in the top lane. And this is why it's really important Quinston holds him, because Vipers aren't comfortable to start a fight when a lot of their advantages are locked up in the side lane in Lundorf. Because if they do start a 4v4, then you have to wipe 3,000 off that gold lead, and things become a little less confident when that happens. But right now, Ocean Dragon spawning in about 1:20. Quinston's a bit bulkier now. He has that Seraph shield as well for the all-in, so he can take a barrel and still feel confident. But the Dragon spawning soon. Again, Dusty do not need to contest this one. It does not mean Soul. If they were, it would keep Vipers away from being at Soul point, one away from picking it up. But they can give it over. What they could try to do again is look for the Baron when Vipers move their numbers to the bot side. But for now, Vipers are securing vision towards the Baron. So they want to try and maintain this to at least buy time. Because if Dusty push in to contest his vision, they want it to sacrifice a lot of time so they can take the Dragon and then move over. It puts them in a decent position. And right now, Dusty are just trying to work out how to react, trying to work out which angle they can move in from.
Now, Lundorf's been to base as well, got himself the Essence Root, sorry, the Infinity Edge, so it's full damage here. Actually, it looks like the Baron is being thought about, but they are just clearing out the waves. That's the ulti by Voxney used. The chains go a little bit wide.
That's a huge tool down. And the fact you don't get the flash from Joachim, that's a pretty big hit. You don't have great engage tools from Vipers other than throw down the Cannon Barrage and run at them. Brawlmalt, extremely unreliable. If it's not already set up by some other CC. So right now, Vipers can't really start a fight on their terms. They are trying to look towards the Dragon. Quinston's moved down to try and get the control ward down. He does have to catch this wave in bot lane. So this gives Vipers a little bit of freedom to push up with a numbers advantage. And I think Lundorf's just actually trying to solo.
They're looking to get himself the double stun off there. That's going to be the ulti out by Bebop. Den looks to turn around. Cocoon lands onto the back line. Den's doing some serious work there, but just looks like now they're going to walk away. Lundorf going to solo up this Dragon.
And this is where it can come in significant. When there's low HP bars, having the triple ocean allows you to sustain up in that situation. Obviously, right now, Ocean Drakes on their own do not give mana regen, so they won't be able to participate in this until the soul's picked up. But with Joachim and Hoyes being low, Vipers feel confident to start this one up. I think you have to back away from this one. There's still 5 against 5, and you don't want to risk the extra Baron damage. Lundorf, Rai is actually starting to find his own in this matchup.
Yeah, Lundorf's starting to take some serious damage there. Didn't lose himself his more proc, so will actually keep some health available, some kind of defensive utility to himself.
And this
available.
is how the matchup is supposed to go. It's been delayed because of the goal difference throughout, but now Quinston's feeling confident, and Viper's feeling confident to start this Baron.
Yeah, they go for the miasma there by Poulsen. You got to watch that shockwave. You got to watch that bullet time. Viper's very much aware of that. Do back off. Take this moment to relax. And Lundorf, he's getting flanked here. The Realm Wolf's getting used. He has to flash the wall.
They're not going to chase him. They don't want to chase him down. They'd rather push up the mid lane and get control. TP is going to come in from Poulsen to defend that tower, but they're preferring the Baron control, and I respect that. Chasing Lundorf, he could buy a lot of time with the Cannon Barrage, and he could just end up denying this pressure you've actually managed to buy yourself. So good respect coming out from Dusty not to chase that one. I think another factor is you look at their side waves, top and bot, they need to sort of deal out. So Vipers throw down the Cannon Barrage, they expected something, but in reality, Dusty are using this to reset the tempo. So they'll clear the vision out, they'll go back to base, they'll spend, they'll get some rewards, and they'll handle these waves that are pushing into them. So it gives Dusty a little bit more time. Obviously, Vipers can go towards this Baron, but they'll have to clear out the control ward. And by that time, you can see Joachim able to move over. Legions is there as well. Vipers aren't able to start the Baron. And it puts the map in a better state for Dusty, even though it doesn't achieve any neutral objectives. I think that was the right call from them.
Absolutely. Lundorf actually did go to base after flashing that wall. Got himself the Ninja Tabby as his pickup. So he opted in for a little bit of armor. Amazed not Merc Treads. I'm actually amazed we didn't see the Merc Treads come out from him there, but...
Doesn't do very much in this matchup up against the Rise, but maybe this is a prospect that he's recognized he's not making much headway anymore against Quinston. He's caught up in levels. He's starting to catch up in terms of scaling. And I think this is sort of saying, look, I'm not going to be able to destroy their base from the side lane anymore. I'm going to join fights, is the big message I'm getting from that. 2 minutes 30 on that Dragon, and this would be the soul for Vipers. Again, I don't think it's the most insurmountable thing, especially as Legions is very close to a Morellonomicon to shut down that healing. But definitely a possibility.
Looking to try and crack this tier 1 top side here from the side of Dusty, but Poulsen's headed up there on the Cassia Bear. Not got his teleport crucially, so wants to clear this wave out and then maybe look to swap with Lundorf, who has his teleport.
You can see despite the jungle change, his jungle is still very down in levels, so Joachim would be pretty weak compared to Poulsen, but with Legions there as well, still in a decent spot.
Hidden's going to take some serious damage from Hoyes. Looks like they're collapsing in here onto Poulsen. Poulsen flashes away, holds his Petrifying Gaze, holds his Nerve. As Cocoon comes out from Hidden. The attempt is thwarted by the Vipers, but they were so far ahead. That gold lead is 6k, but it feels like it's starting to get harder and harder for them to do anything right now. As that is going to be the flash of the Chains of Corruption. Only going to burn that. Hoyes does hold his cleanse and his flash, however. And now it looks like Bebop, he could be in for a little bit of hurt here. Throws up the wall to make sure he doesn't take too much damage. He's just going to walk away. Poulsen, now flashless, does need to be careful from a potential engage onto him from Legions and Joachim.
It's where things get a little bit difficult for Vipers, because obviously Cassiopeia, Gangplank, Varus all scale pretty well. Obviously, the top and mid laner for Vipers extremely well. Varus to a decent degree. The thing that becomes concerning in later stages is that an Elise is far less useful than a Graves, and a Braum isn't going to offer as much in the late game as a Zillion. So when it starts to get to like those 40-minute points, the support and the jungler are going to start to come more into the mix with regards to power, because we're getting close. You know, Lundorf's level 18, he can't get any higher. Legions is level 18, can't get any higher. Those level differences are going to start to catch up, as are the item differentials as well. When people start to cap on an item, you can see Void Staff picked up by Legions here, so that extra penetration. A lot of MR has already been picked up by Vipers, and you can see Dusty starting to feel more confident. They're able to gain priority to the mid lane. If they want to move over to that Dragon, they can. If they want to deny the soul, or they could potentially look to trade it for the Baron.
However, the side lanes are not completely in their favor. One good thing they've been able to do. That's a lot of damage getting thrown out. The Chrono Shift is going to get burnt on top of the poison. Lundorf may just have found this pick here. They're looking for another one as Den flashes forward. Hoist goes golden as he tries to channel the bullet time, and he will be taken down. A shutdown is enough. They get the damage onto Coincidence. He gets rooted in place. He's going to activate his stopwatch, but down he goes. It's a double kill for Den Voxney. They lose the Drake, but they win the fight, and now they look to push mid.
And only just face checking. He shouldn't be the one to go for that. It should be Joachim, who has the extra mobility and still had his flash available. In the end, only ults himself, but isn't able to get out of the situation. Hoy's a little bit of a misplay using the stopwatch just as he ults, but there wasn't much he could do there. Winston goes down as well. That bot tower is down. Yeah. And Lundorf can finish it off, and they all pinging towards Baron. It's already actually been started. You can see Paulson and Bebop Bully on it. Cassiopeia has the DPS just since he soul is through, and Lundorf just able to run away. Dusty, everything's starting to fall apart. Just as they felt confident to push up, they felt like the game was starting to come in their favor. Only 35 steps too far, and the rest of his team pays for it. And as a result, that 6,000 gold lead you were talking about a moment ago, it's now 10,000. Consolation prize, Dusty did get that Ocean Dragon. They denied the soul, but that's a pretty heavy cost to pay.
Joachim's looking to see if he can try and stop the base from Lundorf, but Lundorf's out of there. He's pieced away. And now, we were talking about how Coincidence was doing well into Lundorf. Now he's got to push into Baroned up minions that have that extra magic resistance, which means he's clear. It's just that little bit weaker on this rise here. Has himself the Crystal Scepter as his base, so adds to his chunky factor, but also does give him a nice amount of slows to work with.
Yeah, good in the 1v1 against Lundorf, but I feel like in this situation, it's just about pushing the Baron waves in. They've actually sent Paulson up to the top side. He's got TP available. He's going to be able to match up well into Coincidence if he stays there. See the gold in front of you. 3,000 still the lead in the top lane, but a massive lead picked up for Den Voxney there. He got a spread of kills in the last fight, and he's now massively a whole item's worth ahead of Den Vox against Hoyes, sorry. And he has the GA, as does Lundorf. And I believe Paulson has a stopwatch as well, so very difficult to take these carries out in this situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of people you're going to have to kill. 7 members effectively here if you're on the side of Dusty for that ace.
I mean, everyone on this side of Vipers has either stopwatch, Zhonya's, or GA. Super difficult to deal with on that side. And it's going to make, if a fight does break out, because the ideal when you're against a Baroned up team is you want to team fight them so they can't push. But if it does break out, it's going to be very difficult to finish any of them off. And you can see Dusty instantly back away despite potentially fighting hidden there. Scary situation to be in, and with Triple Ocean, that damage he took is going to heal up pretty fast. Coincidence has a lot of wave clear. He's actually handling okay in the side lane, but he's trapped there. He has to stay here and constantly work through these minions.
Lundorf feeling comfortable to step up and try and push these up. He's taking a lot of damage in return here. Gets that slow on the Crystal Scepter.
Yeah, we got to be careful about that Rylai's there. Again, Triple Ocean going to heal him up in this situation. Over time, you can see they have distributing that 1-3-1. That tower in the top lane still available. I believe has just gone down now, thanks to the cannon minion, buffed up by Paulson. And it's just splitting Dusty across 3 lanes and just letting the minions do the work. As long as you can't be engaged on and Dusty's engaged is really limited, there's not too much threat in this situation. You see only trying to move between lanes, potentially speed someone up, but they lose that mid lane tower. Hoyes has to use Cleanse against the Chains of Corruption.
Yeah, bombs aren't going to connect from only either here. Hoyes can do a good job to at least clear this wave out, but Paulson teleports up, got that death cap available to him at this point. With that stopwatch, Paulson's going to be exceptionally hard to pin down in place. You got 1 minute until that Ocean Drake. The lanes are getting pushed in on all fronts. Baron has worn off, so Dusty have this 1 moment of reprise here.
They broke the base, but they didn't get any inhibitors, so those super minion waves that are going to apply pressure towards Dusty. That's 1 consolation prize. And as well, because Dusty denied that soul, this could have been Elder coming up, but it's now just 5th Ocean, sorry. And that means if Dusty contest it and they manage to take that Ocean, they get soul for themselves. So it's definitely more valuable right now, the contest. Question is, will they feel confident to go for it?
It gets harder now to contest because you actually have less slots to buy those pink wards. Hidden actually opted into getting himself the amp tone, so he wants a bit more damage, so he can't buy himself a pink himself.
I feel like pink wards are big defensive tools, though. If you have control of an area, a control ward is huge. If you're walking in, you'd rather the other team not have as many. See both of them trying to push in and contest his vision. This could be the fight that dictates a game.
Hidden actually did sell and bought 2 pinks. I'm very happy with that. Or control wards. I'm actually stuck in about 4 years ago.
See both teams posturing for this one. There's a flank potentially available for Lundorf if he moves in. For now, though, Dusty playing around the vision. They have control of that brush just near the pit. And you can see Paulson, he's pinging. He's wanting to move towards the mid lane and potentially shove it in. But he is spotted out.
Oh, Realm Warp's being thrown down onto him.
That.
They're looking to go in. That's going to be the cocoon, and coincidence! He's taken out by Hidden. That's the soul just given over to Vipers.
Why would you take that? I'm speechless. Why would you take that Realm Warp?
And that now means we got 6 minutes until that Elder spawns up. But at this point, with Baron up in a minute, with the soul available to the Vipers.
Why would you take that Realm Warp?
I mean,
I feel like Cassiopeia is one of the worst champions to ever Realm Warp into, because as soon as she sees where you're going to land, she can throw down the Miasma, throw down the Petrifying.
Oh!
That's Orianna for you.
That's late game Orianna. That's the Death Cap, the Nomicon, and the Void Staff doing so much damage with all that pen. Basically doing true damage to Hidden at this point, as he has no magic resist to speak of. But now they're jumping into Denvoxney. Glacial Fish is going to get used. Cannon Barrage comes out, and Poulsen is just running wild through the team. He's already found him one as the GA is going to get used, but the res is not going to be enough here. That's going to be a double kill to Poulsen, and this may just be the base for the Vipers.
And then Voxney and Poulsen, they can be untouchable in these fights with the protection from Bebop Bully. They're looking for the last 2.
They're looking for them. They have those barrels to work with. The piercing arrow keeps him alive. And Poulsen will take down another. Coincidence is also just running so low. He can do nothing as his base is in tatters. It was a slow slugfest from both sides, but Vipers at 40 minutes take the game.
And that was a different sort of loss coming out from Dusty, because all the other ones, we talked about how we felt like the game was in their control and they threw it away. That one was not. That was always a Vipers game. They went for the early play where obviously Dusty decided to swap to the side of the map and contest a Rift Herald. Vipers were just like, we'll give all the gold to Denvoxney. And I feel like that cost Quinstance and Hoyes heavily in particular, especially since they didn't use the Herald to try and contest that first tower push. If they'd gone for that, they potentially could have gotten that extra gold income. Instead, they looked for mid tower. They fell behind in terms of gold, and they were consistently on the back foot. And you could see how that Ryze versus Gangplank matchup, which we talked about how it should have gone favorably towards the Ryze, especially when it comes to the split push, for such a long time, Quinstance was struggling. And then when they finally felt like, okay, we're powerful enough to contest, a couple of misplays, game is over.
And that's big, because now Dusty, they've been able to tie up Vipers have pulled ahead of Dusty. Got that completely the wrong way around there. So Vipers means Dusty will not be tying with them no matter... Actually, no, if they lose tomorrow and Dusty win tomorrow, they will tie. But
no, they won't.
No, they won't. I'm dumb. No, they won't. So yeah, that's good for Vipers. They put themselves very solidly now ahead of the rest of the pack, at least coming out of today.
Vipers are at least second. If Singularity lose today, then Vipers will be tied first. That is how they can end their day. And I think we can talk all night and day about how Dusty, I feel like they misaligned their resources. They didn't opt to contest that. And there were mistakes, you know, like Quinstance's Realm Warp. But Vipers played extremely well. Yeah. I think it was a slow-paced game, but they didn't really give an opportunity massively for Dusty to get back into it. I think we've seen Vipers with a good scoreline, but a lot of people were still potentially doubting them, thinking, you know, that there were issues with Hidden, thinking they just came ahead against the weaker teams. But Dusty is a formidable force, and they beat them outright. That was no sort of cheese. That was no new jungle. That was no, oh, you know, Dusty threw the game away at the last second. Vipers won that game. It wasn't just that Dusty lost it. It
was clean, it was controlled, and it was decisive. And we do see ourselves getting Vipers another win here on the board. They are 4-1 here coming into week 3. But we're going to cut to a quick break. And when we're back, we'll be back with Hillerod versus Nordvin. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a second.